Terrifying nighttime roads, 12 sinister encounters with the unexplained revealed, the chill of the night clung to Sarah like a cold blanket. Pine Ridge, with its pleasant facade by day, morphed into a maze of menacing shadows and whispering winds once darkness fell. As a nurse juggling late shifts and a young son, she thought she had seen it all, but the broken whispers of the wind carried fears she wished she could dismiss. For weeks now, the local news floods the airwaves with tales of disappearances, and the innocent faces of neighbors turned predators made her skin crawl. It was late, and Sarah's car trembled down the backroads that twisted like serpents under a moonless sky. The streetlights beeped faintly as if warning her, flickering like dying fireflies. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, lost power. Panic clawed at her chest like a desperate animal. Alone, she gazed into the pitch-black night, clutching her phone only to find it naked of service. The silence weighed heavy around her, then came the rustling. Her heart slammed against her ribs as shadows danced in her peripheral vision. Mikey's words echoed in her mind, the shadowy figure he claimed to see, stalking near their home. Just a trick of the mind, she had told him. But every instinct told her this wasn't imagination. Fear wove through her as she swallowed hard, trying to convince herself it was just the wind. The call she attempted to place fell dead, unanswered. Stay calm, she whispered to herself, panic tightening its grip. But hopelessness scratched at the edges of her sanity, fueled by sinister stories from the neighbor, someone who was once a trusted friend but now whispered about in the dark corners of town. Beware of the woods. The unexpected growl of an animal echoed nearby, shattering her thoughts. Before she could process it, a flicker of light caught her eye, cutting through the thick underbrush. Faced with a terrible choice, Sarah stepped from her dead car, propelled by the instinct to protect Mikey. Each stride toward that glow felt like molasses, her breath quickening. She emerged into the open, the woods closing in around her with a feral hunger. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The light retreated, slipping through the trees like a ghost, beckoning her deeper into the forest. An otherworldly chill brushed against her skin, a slight wind that carried the sinister warning of hidden eyes watching. The rustles became whispers, shadows morphing into forms she couldn't quite grasp. Mikey, she breathed, fear morphing into dread as she thought of him alone in bed, the figure he feared having free rein in her absence. Then the ground shifted beneath her, something surged from the darkness, sending an electrifying jolt through her. The high-pitched cries of children drifted on the air, a horrifying melody that sent ice through her veins. What if it wasn't just a tale, but a living nightmare? The story of Pine Ridge was older than she realized, and now she stood perilously close to its bitter truth, someone or something drawing her deeper. The shadows thickened, and a familiar voice rang clear. It wasn't Mikey, and it wasn't friendly. Something sinister lurked, and the night had no intention of letting her unravel the secret. Sarah pressed on, fueled by desperation. Each step into the forest felt like walking through a thick curtain of unease. The whispers grew louder, flaring a sense of urgency inside her. Mikey, she called, but her voice sank into the abyss, swallowed by the rustling leaves. She imagined his face, innocent and trusting, and it drove her forward despite the fear ripping at her insides. Suddenly, the glow of the light wavered like a candle in the wind, and she stumbled, regaining her footing just as she caught a glimpse of what flickered ahead. An old lantern hung from a gnarled tree branch, casting a ghostly light that illuminated a clearing. The ground was littered with forgotten toys, dolls with cracked porcelain faces, a rusted tricycle, and bear traps lying ominously open. It was a graveyard of childhood, twisted by something dark. The low growls returned, closer now, crawling into her ears like a swarm of wasps. Panic surged again, prickling her skin. She scanned the perimeter for an escape, but the trees had closed in around her, forming a prison. A cold sweat beaded at her brow as the air thickened with malice. "What do you want?" she whispered to the silence, her voice trembling. Then came a sound that froze her blood, a giggle. It was high-pitched, disconcerting, reminiscent of laughter misplaced, echoing through the trees with unnatural glee. She was not alone. Shadows danced near the dark edges of the clearing, darting with a childlike fervor. Her heart raced. Were these the children from the cries she had heard? Before she could process the implications, one shape broke from the darkness. A small figure emerged, an emaciated child with hollow eyes and a wide grin that seemed too big for its face. "Come play with us," it crooned, the voice syrupy sweet yet laced with something alien. "No. I have to find my son," she screamed, backing away instinctively. The child tilted its head, the grin stretching even wider, revealing teeth that appeared too sharp, too menacing. Other figures flanked it now, ghostly children, their limbs thin and elongated, gliding toward her with swift, erratic movements. Sarah turned to flee, but the trees seemed to twist and shift, closing in around her like a funnel. She ran, branches clawing at her clothes. She heard the patter of little feet behind her, laughter weaving through the air as if the very woods were alive with malice. "Stay with us!" they shrieked, their voices intertwining into a chorus of madness. Her feet pounded against the ground, breath hitching in her throat. Just as she was sure they would close in, she glimpsed a familiar path that led back toward her car, a struggle against the chaos tightening around her. The brush crackled beneath her feet, and she prayed for the safety of the road. Then she heard it, the rustling not from the laughing children, but from something much larger in the shadows. Something that felt hungry. As she burst into the clearing where her car lay abandoned, dread washed over her. The engine had long since died, the headlights dimmed and dark. The sense of safety was illusory. She was still in the woods, still vulnerable with nowhere to hide. And she could still hear them, the soft laughter that dripped like honey but twisted like poison. Something flickered in the corner of her eye. A movement, familiar and terrifying. She turned, the remaining light of the lantern catching a glimpse of fur, a pair of eyes glowing with a sinister allure, full of promise and danger. "Where are you running, Sarah?" The voice slithered through the trees, smooth and mocking. She felt it wrap around her like a noose, tightening with every heartbeat. The shadows closed in, and she was no longer just protecting Mikey, she was fighting for her own soul. What would it take to escape the grasp of Pine Ridge? As she sprinted, fear mingled with despair. A single thought echoed hauntingly: when she discovered the truth, would she even want to survive? Her feet barely touched the ground as she fled, panic clawing at her throat. The shadows twisted like thick smoke, curling and pulling her back while the laughter echoed all around. "Stay with us," they taunted, their voices high and clear, yet each note dripped with something darker. Sarah's heart thundered as she sprinted toward the tree line at the edge of the clearing, wildly glancing back, desperate to see her pursuers. The ghostly forms of the children were gaining. It was as if they were woven into the very fabric of the forest, creeping closer with every thud of her racing heart. She ducked beneath low branches, trying to find a way through the suffocating hedge of trees, but the path seemed to vanish before her eyes. Then came a guttural sound, a low growl that resonated from deep within the shadows, pulling her attention like a magnet. Something larger, darker, and more menacing was lurking just beyond the veil of leaves. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and she pushed forward, praying it wasn't he hunting her too. Darkness was thickening around her, swallowing the last remnants of light. The laughter faded, replaced by a dreadful silence that felt impossibly heavy. She stumbled forward, legs turning to lead as panic gripped her. Where was Mikey? Had he been taken? The mere thought sent shards of ice slicing through her. She squinted into the dark, focusing on a break in the trees ahead. A glimmer of moonlight seemed to beckon her. Hope sparked within her, and she surged toward it, the sound of the forest enveloping her once more. But the moment she stepped into the patch of light, she froze. Before her lay not the familiar path back to where she had come from, but a twisted landscape of thorns and brambles, dappled with pale moonlight that seemed to pulse. And in the center stood a swing set, rusted and covered in vines, yet a faint creaking sound echoed through the empty yard. It was a sick parody of innocence, and fear shot through her like icy knives. "Help us!" cried a voice, this time deeper, more desperate. It wasn't the children. It sounded like Mikey. "Mommy." His voice trailed into the night, hauntingly entwined with the rustle of the evening breeze. Driven by instinct, she lunged forward, the pull of his call anchoring her to this dreadful place. "Mikey!" she cried, scrambling to where the swings hung eerily. Her heart raced with a mix of dread and hope. She stepped into the open space, heart pounding so loudly she barely heard the rustling behind her until it was too late. The laugh echoed again, but not from the children. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere primal. Her spine prickled as she turned slowly, a chill racing up her arms. The dark shape slithered into view, a beast with glowing eyes and a grin stitched from darkness itself. "What's the matter, Sarah?" it hissed, voice dripping with venomous delight. "Looking for your son?" She backed away as the creature advanced with a fluid grace, swarming shadows pooling around it like a living cloak. The air grew oppressively dense, thick with the stench of decay and rot. "Mikey is mine now," it taunted, the words splitting her resolve, each syllable a jagged knife. With a final desperate glance into the emptiness, she felt her back against the swing set. Trapped, her instincts flared as she let out a primal scream, lungs burning, heart racing. She wouldn't let them take him away never. As the dark figure lunged, a pair of glistening eyes emerged from the shadows. "Let us play," they whispered, the promise resonating in her bones, a chorus of lost children all around her. She fought back as best she could, but deep down, under the layers of dread, a new fear rooted within her. What if the real monster was not this creature, but the very children she had fought so hard to save? And with that flash of revelation, Sarah knew the game was only just beginning. What horrors would unfold now that the truth loomed dangerously close? Sarah's heart raced, every beat pounding against her chest like a warning drum. The creature lunged forward, shadowy tendrils swirling ominously around it. She could feel its malevolence vibrating through the air like an electric current, leaving a bitter taste on her tongue. "Run, Sarah!" she screamed at herself, but her legs felt heavy, rooted to the ground by an unseen force. The suffocating darkness closed in, wrapping around her like a thick fog. In the back of her mind, she wondered if Mikey could still hear her voice, if he was safe or worse, if he had already fallen into the abyss of their nightmare. In a moment of desperation, she ripped her eyes away from the creature. The swing set creaked eerily as she turned, illuminating a path that twisted deeper into the darkness. It was a gamble, but she had to try. Mikey needed her. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she sprinted toward the depths of the forest, thick branches clawing at her as if trying to pull her back. Shadows danced in her periphery, whispering her name in mocking harmony. "Sarah, stay with us." The landscape morphed around her, trees bending unnaturally. The air crackled with tension. She could hear them again, those voices. Each child's laugh felt like a shard of glass in her mind, sharp and unsettling. "Mikey!" she cried out, desperation etched into every syllable. "I'm coming." She stumbled over roots and twisted vines, gasping for breath, her mind racing with thoughts. What had become of the children? Were they truly lost, or had they chosen this fate? An unsettling question rooted itself in her mind like a splinter. Were they the real victims, or had they willingly embraced the darkness that now surrounded her? Branches snapped behind her. The creature was close, stalking her every move like a predator sensing weakness. She skidded to a halt, panting, a glimmer of recognition flickering in the shadows ahead. There stood a familiar figure, small and frail. It was Mikey. "Mikey!" She lunged towards him, her heart soaring with hope. But as she drew closer, the figure twisted, contorted in a way that made her stomach lurch. The joyful laughter that spilled from its lips was not her son's, it was a wicked parody, an echo of a game long forgotten. "Mikey is playing, Mommy." The figure chimed, eyes gleaming with a sinister joy. "No, no, no!" she cried, the realization hitting her like a wave of ice. The boy she thought she knew was lost, merged with something far more sinister, something like the other children now swarming in the darkness around her. "Come play," they begged, voices indistinguishable, pulling her toward them like puppets on strings. With fear pulsing through her veins, she started backing away, her instinct screaming to flee. The swing set was behind her, its rusted chains swaying ominously as if beckoning her back. This was an old haunt. Memories flooded her, happy memories of her son swinging into the air with laughter. But now, they were tainted with shadows. "Mikey, listen to me," she shouted, her voice cracking. "I want to leave you here. Fight it." The twisted figure paused, and for a brief moment, she saw a flicker of something human in his eyes, recognition, fear. Mommy, help," he stammered, the moment stretching painfully, twisting in agony and hope. Then the shadows took over again, pulling Mikey back into their fold as the creature hissed from the darkness, "What fun is a game without a little sacrifice?" The frenzied laughter erupted, echoing all around her as the air grew thick and suffocating. Sarah's heart dropped into her stomach. She was losing him. In a moment of reckless bravery, she charged forward, gripping at the darkness, tears streaming as she cried, "I will not let you take him." But as she reached out, the shadows wrapped themselves around her, and a bone-chilling voice whispered directly into her ear, "Your child belongs to us now." Suddenly, all went black, and Sarah felt herself tumbling through an endless void of screams and laughter. This wasn't an end, it was merely the start of a far more horrific game. What trap awaited her in the dark corners of this twisted playground? The cold squeezed Sarah like an iron grip as she descended into the void, weightless yet heavy with dread. Slices of laughter darted around her, echoes of children long lost, wrapping around her thoughts. The shadows whispered sweet nothings, taunting her with the faces of those who had vanished. "Sarah, come play," they slurred her name, ragged tones mixing with the laughter, spilling out like a gruesome melody. Panic surged through her, and instinctively, she fought to twist her body, searching for the ground, for anything solid. Suddenly, she landed hard, tumbled onto a grassy patch. The laughter died away, swallowed by a thick silence. She pushed herself off the ground, her breath rising sharply into the eerie stillness. A dense fog settled around her but didn't mask the chilling sensation that she was not alone. "Mommy?" The voice was quiet, almost a whisper. But she recognized it. "Mikey! Mikey!" she shouted, scrambling to her feet, heart thudding against her ribs. In the distance, she spotted a small figure. "Where are you?" The fog swirled and revealed fleeting glimpses of him, dancing shadows flitting around, laughter mixing with cries, drawing her into a spectral celebration. Each step she took felt heavier, as if each blade of grass manipulated by an unseen force. "Help me!" His voice came through clearer, and for a moment, she thought she could see him again, his little finger raised, pointing to the ground below him. But the ground wasn't solid. It morphed beneath her, swirling patterns appearing like a canvas painted by sadistic hands. She felt the pull of the darkness, yanking her, dragging her closer to the abyss. "No! I won't lose you." The determination settled over her like armor, pushing her to sprint despite the ground's treachery. She pushed forward, ignoring the encroaching shadows hissing her name. "Mikey! I'm here. Where are you?" Her voice broke through the stillness, and as if in response, a circle of light flickered ahead. It illuminated the fog, revealing glimpses of the landscape twisted and warped, an eldritch playground where children played their haunting games of survival. Mikey's laughter rang through the air. A child's laugh should sound joyful, yet this was a sound tinged with anticipation. Something sinister lay beneath it. Sarah stopped dead in her tracks, dread creeping in again. "Join us. A chorus of voices resonated, echoing like a siren-esque call, now drawing others into the fray. Shadows flared brightly momentarily, revealing ghastly smiles and gnarled hands inviting her further into their fold. "No!" she cried, shaking her head, fighting the urge to step toward them. Instead, she grasped a stubborn reality. "You're not my son. You're not Mikey." The figure that had assumed Mikey's shape twisted again. "But I want to play. We all want to play." She could feel the pressure mount inside her, memories of their time in the park locked away surged to the forefront of her mind, the laughter, the warmth of the sun on their faces, everything threatening to shatter under the weight of dread. "I will not play," she screamed, fueled by her need to protect him. "Mikey. You have to fight it. Listen to me." Silence fell heavy once more as the child's laughter faded, leaving only the whisper of leaves. An agonizing hush stretched on, seemingly endless. Then, suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her as the shadows wriggled excitedly, an ominous tremor indicating their displeasure. "You need to choose, Sarah." The sinister voice tempted. "Him, or your own escape." A shiver crawled down her spine. A choice? She was being pushed toward a dreaded decision, a mother's heart against the monstrous plea of something that wore her son's face. The fog thickened, the darkness writhed. What will you sacrifice to save him? The world began to spin, colors swirling into chaos, creating a vortex of despair that pulled at her very soul. What horrific choice lay ahead, one that could rip them apart forever? The ground trembled fiercely, a seismic warning that reverberated through Sarah's bones. She staggered, feeling as if the earth itself pushed back against her defiance. "No. I will not choose." Her voice echoed into the emptiness, swallowed whole by the swirling shadows. The darkness erupted, a cacophony of whispers and giggles filling the air, surrounding her like a cruel embrace. "Make the choice. Make the choice," they chanted, a sinister lullaby weaving through her thoughts. Mikey's figure flickered in and out of view, his eyes wide with innocence, yet shadowed by the darkness clinging to him. "Mommy. Please. Help me." In that moment, Sarah was torn between the love of her son and the horrific image of what this place demanded of her. A heat flashed within her, igniting determination anew. She plunged into the chaos, her heart clawing for her child. "Mikey, I'm coming." As she ran, the mist thickened, each step an uphill struggle against an invisible weight. The laughter warped, growing closer, turning from playfulness to something predatory. She felt fingers of fog slither over her skin, cold and clammy. A sudden surge of despair crashed over her as the world shifted again. From beneath the ground, faces emerged, lost souls trapped in the twisting darkness, their eyes hollowed out yet screaming. "Join us, Sarah. Join us." They wailed. Their outstretched hands clawed at the air, beckoning her with a desperate hunger. Stumbling back, Sarah gasped. "No." The ground beneath Mikey pulsed, the shadows recoiling before her pleas, creating a brief sanctuary where she could see him clearer. "Mommy." His voice, a beacon of hope against the encroaching dread. She dove forward, tearing through the fog. But as she closed the distance, the visage of her son began to distort, the innocent face morphing into something grotesque and unnatural, a jarring reflection of the horrors lurking just beneath the surface. "I don't want to be alone," it cried, the child's voice now twisted and hollow, echoing as if from a deep, dark well. The combined pressure surged again, and she felt as if she would drown in dread. Every lost child's scream reverberated in her ears, clawing at her sanity. Among their cries, a single voice cut through, "Help me." It was a plea she couldn't ignore. Lunging forward, she grasped the real Mikey, pulling him from the spectre's grasp. But the shadows resisted, a tidal wave of darkness rolling toward her, hungry for her sacrifice. "You chose him, now pay the price." The ground beneath them cracked, splitting open, revealing a churning black nothingness eager to swallow them both. "No!" Panic surged. Her pulse raced, she needed to escape, and quickly. The weight of choice still loomed, but she refused to let it crush her. I will not be lost to you. I will save him. With a raw scream, she yanked Mikey's spirit closer to her, the brightness that still lingered there giving her strength. As the abyss reached out, fingers turned dark as night closing in, she felt something click within an understanding. Break the hold. She shouted, holding on to him tightly. We belong to the light. The shadows shrieked, a deafening cacophony that clawed at her ears. The ground roared. Suddenly, a blinding flash burst forth, illuminating everything in a pure, golden light. But before she could relish the moment, the warmth began to fade, and as the light blinked out, the darkness snickered, more relentless and ravenous than before. What's next, Sarah? A sinister voice whispered, curling around her like smoke. Think you can escape just yet? A chilling dread coiled in her stomach. She had not defeated it. This was just the beginning. As the shadows encroached once more, closing on her heart, a question floated eerily to the surface: what cost would she pay to finally break free? The blinding light flickered and then vanished, leaving Sarah shrouded in the suffocating grip of darkness once more. The shadows whispered ominously as they circled her, their cold fingers trailing across her skin like icy tendrils. Each breath she took resonated with a sharp pain, as if the very air around her was laced with despair. Mikey! She called out, but her voice felt small, lost amidst the cacophony of mocking laughter that erupted around her. I'm still here. Desperation clawed at her throat. The darkness thickened, coiling around her like a live serpent, constricting her movement. She struggled against it, arms flailing as panic set in. Mama, help! The cry was distant, echoing through the void, but unmistakably her son's. It fueled a fire deep within her. She fought the grip of the shadows, pushing her way toward that voice, fueled by the heart-wrenching urgency to protect him. The ground trembled again, cracking apart, unfurling a chasm of swirling black smoke. A reflection caught her eye: ghostly figures twisted and contorted, faces of torment flickering in and out like camping lanterns losing their glow. They surrounded her, each an echo of anguish and despair, their hollow eyes pleading for release. Join us, Sarah. No! She screamed, shaking her head furiously as tears streamed down her cheeks. I want to let you take me. But the weight of their sorrow pressed against her, crushing her spirit, blurring her resolve. The sorrow seeped into her bones, whispering twisted promises of solace that made her hesitate. Would joining them bring her peace? Would Mikey understand? Suddenly, a flash of warmth pierced the oppressive fog, a tremulous joy igniting her heart. Mikey, she shouted, grasping onto that fleeting essence of hope. She knew she couldn't give in. The love for her son surged within her, electric and defiant. With newfound strength, she pushed through the suffocating mist, moving toward the sound of his voice. Each step felt like wading through molasses, the shadows trying to tug her back. I'm coming! She cried out in desperation, casting glances behind her to see the faces merge and meld like ghostly flames in the night. Mama! The plea sounded clearer now, the darkness around it pulsing with uncertainty. Then she saw him, her Mikey. His small form illuminated by an ethereal glow, but even that light was fading, consumed by a dark tide that split the distance between them. The monstrous shadows stretched toward him, their laughter now menacingly quiet, waiting. Mikey! Sarah lunged forward, arms outstretched. Every nerve screamed in protest as if the shadows had teeth that gnawed at her strength. She felt the pull of despair heavy in the air, an unseen weight, each ounce of pressure urging her to surrender. Choose. The dark voice echoed, grotesque delight dripping from its syllables. Enough! Sarah shouted, feeling the anger boil within. I will not choose. I will fight. She surged past the thrashing shadows, feeling the warmth generated from her determination surge through her. As she reached her son, she gripped his small hand tightly in her own. We won't lose each other. In that moment, Sarah felt the shadows recoil, their sinister grip faltering. "You foolish girl!" they hissed, slithering back as if burned. But just as victory glimmered on the horizon, a piercing scream sliced through the air. Mikey's expression twisted in anguish, the light flickering behind his eyes threatening to extinguish. He pulled away, the shadows clawing at him once more. Panic seized her heart as Sarah's grip loosened. "Mikey!" Then everything erupted into chaos. The ground shook violently, and all around, the anguished faces howled, a haunting chorus rising in fury. The chasm widened, swallowing the light. "Join us or lose him!" The shadows hissed, and Sarah felt her resolve wavering again, the haunting wisdom in their words striking deep. She was left with an impossible choice. A choice painfully stark. She closed her eyes, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. "Do you even know what love means?" The whisper slithered through the darkness, dripping with malice. As she opened her eyes, the weight of the decision crashed down upon her once more, tighter than ever. Would she sacrifice her own heart? Would the shadows take what she loved most? "Only I can take you to freedom," a voice echoed, laden with promises. And the shadows stirred, eager with anticipation, waiting for her answer. Would she dare decide? What awaited her in the depths of the night? The shadows shimmered, hungry and restless, swirling like hungry wolves circling their prey. Sarah's heart raced, each beat hammering against her ribs as if trying to break free from a cage of panicked breath. She felt the cold air thicken around her as the ominous whispers grew louder, urging her closer to the edge of despair. "Mikey!" she cried out, desperate to drown out the cacophony. "Just hold on. I'm here." Her voice cracked, the weight of her fear slicing through the air like a knife. The darkness pulsed as if responding to her, each breath she took vibrating with a sense of doom. She strained against the darkness, pulling Mikey back towards her, but the shadows were relentless. Their icy fingers snaked around his tiny frame, dragging him further into the depths. "Mama, please." His voice trembled like a fragile thread. Everything in her screamed to rescue her son, but the shadows whispered promises of unimaginable solace. "Give and join us, be free," they crooned, their voices a sickly sweet lullaby drifting through the chaos. "No!" Sarah shouted, shaking her head violently. "I want to let you take him. I want to lose him." The ground beneath her buckled, and she stumbled, feeling the chasm of ink-black smoke yawning wide, threatening to swallow her whole. "Your love is your weakness," came the chilling reply from all directions. "You will pay the price for your foolishness. Choose." In that split second, indecision gripped her like a vice. The fear of losing Mikey threatened to consume her. But somewhere deep inside, she felt that fierce spark of love pushing back against the consuming tide. "I refuse to choose." Sarah screamed, her defiance echoing back to her. Suddenly, the darkness shrieked in protest. Mikey's light shimmered brighter, flickering like a candle in a storm, battling back the shadows. "Mama!" He reached out again, the distance closing as the shadows shrieked in agony, but then, a thick tendril lunged at her, coiling around her ankle, icy and vile. It pulled her backward, dragging her away from Mikey. She fought against it, but it tightened like a snake, choking her resolve. "Mikey!" Her voice cracked as she felt herself slipping away again. She watched helplessly as his glow dimmed, the shadows drawing in close. "No, no, no!" Panic surged inside her, the frantic realization slicing deeper than any blade. "Come to us," they hissed, the chorus growing stronger as they sensed her turmoil. "We can give you what you desire most. Let go of him, and you will find peace." Their words danced around her, wrapping her mind in a web of seduction. Peace? Was it worth Mikey? The thought lodged deep in her throat, suffocating her. "Make your choice." They clamored, dark faces twisted in mockery, a symphony of despair circling. The shadows were closing in again, pulling the light from Mikey's eyes. She could feel their hunger. Please. Mikey's voice cracked, drowning in the darkness, the flicker of hope barely hanging on. In that moment of dread, she remembered the warmth of his laugh, the way he trusted her completely. No. Sarah bellowed, a surge of defiance pushing back through her veins. With a primal cry, she summoned every ounce of strength within. I reject you. She shouted, breaking free from the paralyzing grip of despair. I am not afraid. The shadows shrieked, caught off guard by her abrupt resistance. They recoiled. But the ground rumbled violently, cracks shooting through the earth beneath her. You should be. They hissed, their voices a feral blend of rage and fear. The abyss around her swirled violently, threatening to drag her deeper into darkness. Mikey faded even further from her grasp, his fragile glow flickering like a dying star. Mama! His cry echoed, resonating through her bones, and in that haunting instant, as the chasm yawned wider, a realization struck her: the true fight had just begun. But what choice could she make that would save him, and herself? The darkness roared in retaliation, ready to strike. Would her heart be strong enough to break through? Or would she seal both their fates in the eternal night? The question lingered, stretching into the abyss like an unbreakable tether. The ground shuddered beneath Sarah's feet, and each fracture whispered cruel threats of what lay beneath. She could feel the chilling grip of the shadows tightening around her ankle, their presence a suffocating weight. The shadows, twisted shapes without form or face, lunged for her, their elongated limbs reaching, clawing for her resolve. No! I want to let you take him. Sarah shouted defiantly, as she fought against the icy tendril that wrapped tighter around her. She felt her heart thunder in her chest, a drum beating against the overwhelming darkness, and each shout stirred something deep within the shadows. They recoiled, hesitating, as if her defiance puzzled them. Love will be your undoing, they sneered, voices slithering around her, taunting. Join us, and we will show you what true freedom feels like. Leave us alone. The words exploded from her lips, fueled by a desperate will to fight. She could see Mikey's light flickering, but the shadows were pulling him in, bit by bit, and she felt tears streaming down her cheeks. Each drop seemed to be swallowed whole by the darkness, leaving only an echo of her despair. Mama, I'm scared. His plea threaded through the howling chaos, a sharp reminder of everything she stood to lose. The shadows swayed, growing bolder, closing in like a predator circling its prey. In a moment of clarity, she recalled how she had always comforted him, how her touch could chase the nightmares away. Mikey! Stay with me! She yelled back, summoning every last ounce of pain and hope swirling through her. With unexpected strength, she wrenched her foot free, the ice fingers of the shadows retreating. Listen to her. Mikey's voice rang out, a beacon amidst the dimness. Don't give in. Remember our games? Remember the night sky? His words were like sunlight piercing through the fog of despair. The memories of their laughter, of stargazing, rushed back, a lifeline that pulled her from the brink of annihilation. Yes. I remember. We'll stargaze again. I won't give you up. The shadows howled, a sound that pierced through her heart. They convulsed, shuddering as if struck by her words. She turned, focusing on Mikey's light, hoping it would be enough to pull him back from the edge. Mikey, hold on to the light. Believe in me. Believe in us. The shadows screeched, their chorus smothering her with doubt. But she could feel it, a burgeoning glow igniting inside her, her love burning fiercely against the consuming darkness. She grasped at the warmth, holding it close as the abyss ricocheted around her, battling against her resolve. I believe in my son. I believe in the life we have together. With every ounce of energy she had, Sarah lunged forward. The shadows shrieked sharply, their voices a cacophony of rage and confusion. She could feel the pull of the darkness trying to drag her back, but she pushed through, each step forward igniting a spark of hope. Mama! Mikey's glow flared and flickered, battling against the encroaching void. I'm with you. Just as she reached for him, another powerful tendril lashed out, catching her by the wrist, freezing her mid-motion. You cannot win. Your misery is eternal. But a shattering whisper cut through Mikey's voice surged stronger than ever. Together, Mama. Together. In that fragile moment of trust, her heart swelled with warmth and determination, meeting the darkness head-on as she recalled how to fight back. Would their combined light be enough to conquer the shadows threatening to consume them? As the shadows recoiled, she tugged at the tether of darkness around her ankle, feeling it give way slightly. We can break this. I know we can. She shouted, and the light wavered precariously, the outcome hanging in a fragile balance. Then, just beyond her vision, a glimmer caught her eye, a glimpse of something beneath the swirling mass, something that hinted at an exit. But would it lead them to freedom or deeper into despair? Sarah, the shadows hissed, foreboding in its tone. You've made a grave mistake. Fear clutched at her chest, but she refused to falter. Would she and Mikey face whatever lay beyond together? Or would the darkness swallow them whole as they sought the final shred of hope? The answer quivered in the air, teetering on the brink, and they had to find it before the darkness seized its chance. The ominous whispers swelled into a deafening roar, swirling around Sarah like a cyclone of despair. Each painful breath slid past her lips, and her heart raced with a raw desperation. She tightened her grip on Mikey's small hand, feeling his warmth and the flicker of hope against the cold tide of darkness consuming them. Would they break through the haze, or would the shadows drag them back to eternal night? Mikey! Sarah shouted, every fiber of her being glistening with determination. We have to fight together. Remember our stars? The night sky above our home? Somewhere among the chaos, Mikey's light pulsed, steady but fragile. I remember, Mommy. I want to see them again. His voice crackled like electricity, charging the air with an innocent resolve that made her heart soar. Then we will. Hold on to that light, Mikey. She pulled him closer, rallying the embers of courage sparking between them. The shadows writhed, enraged by their bond, eagerly drawing nearer, their claws reaching for her son. You think your love has power? Hissed the creature formed of shadows, its voice slithering through the air. It will blind you. You are trapped. No. Sarah denied fiercely, her voice ringing out against the encroaching darkness. The love I have is a weapon. It will drive you back. With every ounce of energy, she pushed forward, her feet moving as if propelled by the very stars themselves. The air felt electric, the light growing brighter with every step they took together. She pulled Mikey with her, feeling his warmth surge in response to her conviction. As they ran, the shadows writhed and twisted around them, but she felt the grips begin to loosen. Together, we are stronger. She yelled, urgency pushing her further into the light they both needed. Mikey, trust me. I trust you, Mommy. His small voice resonated with loyalty, a beacon of hope amidst the cacophony of despair. Suddenly, they burst through the shadowed veil, breaking into an open field flooded with an otherworldly glow. The darkness recoiled, shrieking in frustration as the warm light wrapped around them like a protective cocoon. Sarah turned, her heart pounding as she felt the rush of relief wash over her. We made it! She exclaimed, voice triumphant. The grip of the shadows was weakening, fear amplifying their shrieks of rage, but there was no rest yet. The creature loomed behind them, its decided growl rattling the ground beneath their feet. You may have escaped today, but you cannot run forever. I will come for you always. Mikey's eyes widened in fear, but Sarah knelt before him, cupping his face in her hands. Listen to me. We've broken free from their grasp. But we need to stay together. Vigilant. Always. Heartache and resolve wove through her voice as she gazed into his eyes, assuring him of her eternal love. Will we go back home? he asked, the innocence in his voice hitting her like a soft punch to the gut. Yes. We'll go home, and we keep each other safe. I promise. With renewed strength forged through their ordeal, they began walking, two silhouettes against the swaths of moonlight unfolding before them. Each step ignited a flicker of light that banished the shadows lurking just out of sight, reminding them of the battles they fought and the bonds they formed. The whispers of the night persisted, lingering like a haunting melody in the air, but Sarah held Mikey's hand tightly. Her heart swelled with warmth, wrapping around them like a shield against the darkness that still clawed at the corners of their world. As they finally crossed the threshold of familiarity near Pine Ridge, they felt the weight of the darkness slackening, though the threads of danger still hovered. Sarah looked down at her son, his face illuminated by the light of the stars they so cherished, a reminder of the love that had carried them through. From tonight on, we live for each other, Sarah whispered. No more fear, only hope. Promise? Mikey looked up, his eyes brimming with the innocence of childhood wrestling against the shadows they had faced. Promise. As the first light of dawn broke, spreading warmth over the horizon, Sarah felt a newfound sense of peace settling within her. They made it through, and together they would face whatever came next. There were lessons learned in the dark, a story printed within the deep lines of their hearts, and it was only the beginning of their journey back home now. As you reach the end of this chilling tale, don't just sit there. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel with these actions. Let's keep the story alive.